that there is a history of kind of owning who's telling our stories. And I always get interested because if we look about who's telling our stories in theater and in film, because stories nurture us, that's who's creating the cultural values.
Welcome to Carrie On, the show where we explore reinvention, self-discovery, and empowerment before, during, and after midlife. I'm your host, Carrie Murray. It's time to keep our head above the chaos and carry on. Today on Carrie On, we're pulling back the curtain on Broadway and asking who really gets to tell the stories that change us. Joining me are two powerhouse creators. Nico Juber is an award-winning musical writer whose original work is redefining modern musical theater. And Kristen Hanggi is the Tony-nominated director behind Rock of Ages and one of the most influential visionaries in contemporary theater. Together, they're proving that the future of storytelling belongs to the bold. So, let's carry on. Who does get to tell the story? So today we are talking about one of my favorite things to experience, and that is theater, specifically musical theater. One, because I've always loved it, and two, because it's something I can never do. So I surround myself with people who can, and today I'm surrounded by some really impressive women. I want you to actually take a minute to introduce yourself, my creators and directors. I'm gonna not try to fangirl out here, but please, Nico, you go first.
Sure, hi, I'm Nico Juber. I'm a musical writer and written Millennials Are Killing Musicals, although continuing to write, because as I've learned in almost an 8-year process, you never finish writing. I also have another musical called Winner, and yeah, excited to be here. Thank you.
Welcome. Kristen, tell us about you.
Hi, I'm Kristen Hanggi. I am a director and a writer and a producer. I directed Rock of Ages on Broadway and films like Dear Dumb Diary, and directed on Netflix's Julie and the Phantoms. And I love to make new work. New musicals is my passion, but I also do, drama too sometimes. But it's always more fun when we're singing and dancing.
I agree. For any reason to break into song. Mm-hmm. Did you guys see Schmigadoon by any chance? The one that just won the Tony?
No, I haven't seen it on Broadway. Mm-hmm. I saw the show, so I loved it. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, that's right. Have you seen it, Kristen?
I haven't seen it.
Okay, you guys are going to love it. It's really funny. And yeah, I don't want to spoil it. Everybody go see it or watch the show. But before we dive into Millennials, I really want to know, like, where, was there a moment growing up or in your life when you're like, you saw a musical and you were like, I need to do that? Where was that first time you were introduced to musical or theater?
Okay, the first time I was introduced to theater, I was in early elementary school, like maybe first grade, and my older brother, who was in high school, was in a production of Our Town. And when he died, I screamed out loud in the theater, "Jimmer died!" And I was inconsolable. I could not stop crying. I think my mom had to take me out of the theater. Mm-hmm. And I remember just sobbing on the front steps. And my older brother had to come out and be like, "I'm right here." And I couldn't come back from it. I was so moved by the ritual of theater. And I'm sure it was not long after that I just had to start doing all my own productions. So I have a younger brother, and I used to make him dress up with me and put on shows in our living room, and then I would charge my parents money to come watch us. And then I also have a lot of cousins, so I would get them involved, and then I would get the neighborhood kids involved, and then I was just doing that my entire life, and then eventually people started to pay me for it.
Nice. Mm-hmm. So you've been doing it, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. What about you, Nico?
I feel like Kristen had this clarity very early on where I didn't necessarily have that. I was always kind of the academic kid that was good at a lot of things, but I always loved musical theater. I grew up watching all the classic, musicals, musical movies, Annie, just over and over and over again. But my parents wrote musicals, and they still write musicals. And I remember as a kid going to the out of town for Gilligan's Island, the musical. So I kind of grew up knowing this was a thing that you could do. But it wasn't until much later for me that I realized it was something that I could do as a musician, as a songwriter, as a script writer, comedy writer. I don't know why, didn't think to put it all together. I think I had something to do with my detour in corporate and marketing for a long time before I realized, this is actually the thing that lights up all parts of my brain and really kind of brings everything together. And the kind of pivotal moment, I think, was seeing Waitress on Broadway and going, oh, you can be kind of a pop rock writer and write a musical, and kind of put that in my head.
Waitress with Sarah Bareilles, did you say? Oh,
Yes.
Nice. Yeah.
Not in the role when I saw it.
Oh, gotcha.
But
yeah. But it's her music, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Love
think
that.
we should also note that Nico comes from a very famous family, like a legacy of storytellers. You know, her grandfather created Gilligan's Island and the Brady Bunch and wrote the theme songs.
Yes.
So that kind of storytelling, I mean, I see it all the time in her, like her sense of humor and her songwriting, like these characters just live in her. And then her father is a very famous guitar player, so that musical gene is in
passed
her. It's
down.
so natural. And so I feel like Nico has always had stories and music inside of her. It just comes naturally. And then I love your story of how you gave yourself permission to start creating.
Yeah, how'd you do that?
Yeah, well, I mean, part of the story that I left out is that, you know, I had been an artist all kind of growing up. I wrote an album my senior year of high school. I used to play shows my first, year or two of college, and as a singer-songwriter. But then, and I had a stack of sitcom spec scripts. So I was kind of doing all of the different things. I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma when I was 19 and in college in Boston. And that really put me on a path of, at that point, there was no Obamacare. I needed to get benefits. And so I was good at marketing and technology. I went to work for Apple. I worked at Adobe for over a decade and really put everything creative on hold. And it wasn't until about 8 years ago, that kind of, Waitress era, millennial existential crisis, that it all kind of started bubbling over for me. And I sat, I had a break between two jobs that I was working, and I sat at the piano. I just started writing songs from a really authentic place. And it still feels like a download all the time, but it definitely felt like a download at that point. And I just realized this is, once I started getting into it and getting some success and winning some small awards and stuff like that, I just said, I need to do this. Like, this is, if I don't give this 100%, I will regret it for the rest of my life. And I always have these other skills that to fall back on, but that also ended up being a superpower in, I think, the theater industry, and like really thinking about it as a business.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's why I got involved, because one, she is a very good storyteller. And I just remember sitting across from her and her telling me about this, and I was like, yeah, that's a really good idea for a musical. So what kind of brought Millennials Are Killing Musicals? Like, where did this idea come from? Where were you kind of inspired to bring the humor into this ridiculousness of millennials?
I think there's so much of me in the show. It is not a...
Oh, truly.
Yeah, it's
truly.
not, but it's not a one-for-one life story, but it definitely, if you start digging into it, it's a main character who is a stifled creative. She's a mom, she's a stifled creative, and she wants to get her creative voice out there again, but has the pressures of adulting and sort of the realities of being a mom, being a person paying for health insurance and childcare, all of those things. And for her, especially Brenda in the show, a single mom, and what keeps her from that. And then in the show, we have three moms who are kind of the center. It's her younger sister, who's an influencer and shows up pregnant, totally unprepared for motherhood. And then another mom we only know as Jake's mom, who's totally lost her identity in motherhood. And so when I started writing at the time, it was really a response to not only just motherhood and the pressures that we put on ourselves and these characters' relationships with social media, but what that was doing to a generation and how vulnerable women and moms are to the effects of social media. At the same time that as a generation we're being told we're killing everything, we're we're terrible. Like, what does that do on a macro level to a generation? So there was just a lot of angst, I guess, and humor, and the way that I deal with it is to make jokes about it. But I think that's one of the things that works in the show, is that it's a fun, fun, frothy time, but you can dig into the layers of it.
And what came first, the music or the story?
I would say definitely started with music, but then it very quickly, I did the thing that a lot of playwrights do, is, okay, well, what would happen if this happened? And what if there was a mom that you don't really know what her deal is, and what if you followed her and figured it out? I kind of just went down a path with it, and I did not think too hard about it, which was probably the best possible thing to do because it just really let me explore and kind of find the story as I went, which is what I love about writing original musical theater, which is what I do exclusively.
Yeah, I love that. And we met through a mutual friend, Catherine Gray. Catherine Gray is episode, go back and watch it after this one. Because Catherine Gray knows everybody. And I'm sure you've met her. Yep. And not only does she know everybody, but she wants everybody to know each other and to be a part of everyone's world. So when I met you, it was really important at the time because we were talking about empowering women. And, you know, with me and Broad Network, with you, and with Catherine, with Show Her the Money, how did you feel that it had to be, you know, there's not a lot of female creators out there or directors. Like, was it really intentional for you at the beginning to work with women or anyone in a smaller population that you don't see typically on Broadway?
I think because it's been such a process of discovery this whole time of, you know, me just kind of starting out, not knowing what I was doing and really learning as I've gone. I came to learn that it's a tough industry for women, like most industries. You get your support from women. If you look at the development of this show specifically, our big opportunities have all come from women. The world premiere production we just had, Heather Provost was the artistic director at the Colony. A woman artistic director, there's just not that many of them.
Right.
Liz Slumming at Out of the Box Theatrics in New York, where we had our off-Broadway developmental production. Steph Black at I Am a Theater Company in LA. So it's always been women kind of uplifting the project, and I just started noticing that happening and noticing the responses I would get from men in similar conversations. And same thing on the producing side, as I was going along and learning of who funds these projects, who supports it, just by nature of it being a show by and about women, gets women supporters. And so that was where kind of Catherine came into the picture, and I started just letting her know what the numbers look like. You know, she's a numbers person.
Yeah, she is, yeah.
You know, how much money are women getting? What is the representation? And for a little while, it was starting to get better on Broadway. I think it was pretty bad this past season for directors. I know there was some stats about it, but it started becoming much more important to me as I went along and realized how marginalized women and other genders can be within this industry, to be thoughtful about how to put the team together. I mean, Kristen can talk a lot about her experience just, you know, as a woman director and
I'm
hitting
excited.
it big.
And getting into that, absolutely, is when you were first starting, how many women were there? How many,
Not many.
Today's episode includes a paid endorsement. As always, I only partner with brands I use, trust, and feel good about sharing with you. Enjoy.
Before we jump back in, quick story. For 10 years, my company was called Bra Network, Business Relationship Alliance. Support was literally my brand. So when I tell you I'm picky about bras, I mean it. And I'm obsessed with Handful. It lifts without wires, flatters without flattening, and feels good all day, not just for those 30-second Instagram posts. I wear it to yoga, I wear it to filming, I wear it when I need to feel pulled together but comfortable. It's the kind of support that doesn't squeeze you into somebody else's shape. Use code Carrie On at handful.com. Support and make it intentional. Now back to the show.
When I came into Broadway, into the musical theater industry, I think I was ignorant to how many women were not present, right? But interestingly enough, I remember when I was in college that I had been making shows all of this time, but never realized I was a director, because I think subconsciously in my head, I thought of men as directors. And it wasn't till I was in college directing shows and my professor said to me, well, you're a director, that I went, wait a second, I am a director. Right. And I feel like I always worked from just a place of enthusiasm and excitement and love of people and wanting to make things. And it created a trajectory for me for my career. And it wasn't until Rock of Ages was on Broadway and I looked around and I went, where are the women? Where did they go? Oh, there are not many of them. And then that became interesting. And then realizing I was often in rooms and it was mostly men. And that became a really interesting thing to look around and then realize, whoa, okay, there's something going on here. And where does it come from.
Yeah.
And then realizing that, that goes all the way back. Like it goes all the way back to the film industry, and it goes all the way back to the DGA systematically trying to keep women out of the union back in the 1920s, right? That there is a history of kind of owning who's telling our stories. And I always get interested because if we look about who's telling our stories in theater and in film, because stories nurture us, that's who's creating the cultural values. So theater for me is always interesting, especially musical theater, because those stories go out, those soundtracks go out. We all had them when we were kids. We listened to them in elementary school and in high school, and the values that are in those songs become what we inherit, right? They become what we live. And so we have the ability to really affect what young people are thinking, what they're believing about themselves, who they're growing up to be. And so I think there's a responsibility in not only in the stories that we're telling, but also who we're inviting to the table to tell those stories.
Right.
And then one of the things I just loved about Nico from the very first moment that I met her is it was really important to her who we are surrounding ourselves with, who we're hiring. She's so mindful of just saying, it's important for me to uplift people, and it's important for me to that we're being mindful about gender, that we're being mindful about diversity. Like her values were so beautiful and exciting to me, and then also that she was not afraid to say, let's figure out the business part, and if I need to do whatever I need to do to get this musical made, I will do it.
I love it. Yeah.
And so I was just like, oh, where have you been my whole life?
Yeah.
Oh, you're so exciting. Oh, you're kind of fearless.
Yeah.
And I also, I wonder if some of the challenges that Nico had early on in life, health-wise, gave her this courage to say, oh, I am going to do the work I came here to do.
And I'm going to do it my way.
And I'm going to do it my way. And I'm going to invite people to the table, and I want their voices heard. And so I think the musical has that ethos inside of it.
Have you noticed a pay discrepancy? Because you know how that, women make, what is it, 30 cents on a dollar?
Yeah.
Is that also as a director and
Absolutely.
Tony-nominated musicals? Like,
no, it's actually amazing. I do think there is something that happens with women sometimes where we have to fight for our value. Because I think women have often been in caretaker roles, that it's very subconscious that people, they don't realize they don't want women in power. They don't realize that. They don't realize how often they want to turn down the volume on their voices. And I think collectively we don't understand that when a woman is powerful and is successful, there can be a desire to also undermine her. So sometimes there's this, balance beam a woman has to walk down of, well, if I'm in a position of power, how do I stay likable? How do I, how do I, just deal with egos? And I think all of that was so, it was so unconscious that as I noticed it more and I became aware of it, I
probably became hard not to see once you saw it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then, and so it really started to change me, I think, as I was inside of the career, which then changed the stories that I wanted to tell.
Gotcha.
Love
that.
Yeah.
And now that we're seeing, Liberation just won a Tony for Best Play, highly recommend. And it's an all-female cast. I think there's actually one male for a moment and everything, but it's like 5 or 6 female leads. And then prior to that, I know we've all seen Stuffs and everything. This is also female creator, writer of the book and everything, all women cast. Even women are playing the male roles in that. And what's interesting is women are the people who buy all the tickets for all of these shows. And still somehow the people who own the theaters, the people who are making these are white men. Do you feel like there's going to be like, I love that, you're coming up where you have all these women, directors, creators, writers, you're right, taking over the storytelling. when is like the business, like we need to become like theater owners, or do we need to like disrupt the whole system and say, fuck it, we're not going to go over to this traditional theater and everything, we're going to do our own? Like where do we see the future of that?
Well, I think what we see is the models aren't working anymore. The theater is becoming less and less sustainable, that it becomes for only a certain kind of person who can afford those tickets. And then I think it becomes interesting to go, well, if we have stories to tell and we have theater makers, how do we get our stories into the world, which demands that we create new models? And then with the rise of technology, you know, it's been so exciting to see how some young composers have been using technology to get their music out there, to share their work, just to watch that you can find an audience a different way. And then I think it makes us have to be a little crafty and go, okay, so how do we tell this story in the world? And, you know, it's fun to watch like a show like Heathers that had an initial run in New York, but then went over to London and found a younger audience. And it was the 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds that really took that show and was like, this is speaking to us. So I think there's also a conversation on how do we reach a new audience. And I do think the innovation is very exciting. I do think there is opportunity here. You know, in terms of the theater owners, that is that tradition. But I think there's an opportunity for new traditions to be built and to be created.
I agree. Where do you... Like, what if, you know, your North Star, what gets you up every day to work on Millennials, knowing that you have these like old white men holding the key to the theater that we want to be at, you know, in Times Square? Like, what keeps you that drive going?
I think, so a couple of things. I've started trying to be a little bit more present in the process, because so much of it is the discovery and the process. I mean, we've been working all week on just the notes that we got from the world premiere and finding new pathways and having exciting moments. So just being present with kind of one foot in front of the other of this is what needs to happen for the show right now. And then trusting that there are probably opportunities with our next steps that we're not even thinking of yet, or people that will come out of the woodwork. So it's really interesting with theater, because you have to put the cart before the horse a lot of the time and kind of say, okay, we're going to put a stake in the ground of this is what we're planning to do, but then also be really open to the circumstances changing, the models changing, new opportunities coming in, and then just doing the work as you go and building your team and kind of capacity building. So I think another thing that gets me up and really kind of came up in the past few days for us is why the show matters, and why, because it's really easy to get lost in the, this is fun and funny and we just came up with a new bit, you know, that's going to be hilarious on stage. But then also, why does the show matter to people? And for the people who saw themselves in it and it was so important to them, how do we reach them, and how do we reach more of them and do that thing that only theater can really do? So that's kind of what's motivating me right now. And, so, you know, of course, would I love to win a big award? But
absolutely,
I think that doing the thing that's right for the show is usually always the right move.
Yeah.
You know?
I get excited by that too, is how do we reach our audience? I mean, when I first listened to the music and I was like, whoa. And then I realized, well, this is a show about female self-expression. Okay, so this is telling women, especially women in midlife, that what they have to say matters, and that their art matters and their creativity matters. Like, I was like, oh, this is a show I can get behind because I care so deeply. And then it becomes, okay, so how do we get the show to the people that it's meant to be in communication with?
And have the longing effect, right?
Yeah.
And you're right. We're really, you know, limiting our accessibility to it with the cost of tickets. It becomes almost like a playground for the wealthy.
That's right.
And everything. Where I remember growing up, and every holiday they played Sound of Music, and it was just like, I could not wait. I could watch Sound of Music. I didn't actually go into an actual theater until I was well into my like early teens. But there is something magical that happens when you're in and watching people on stage telling a story. And for me, it's like I can first off, it can't be replaced by AI, so bravo. But the second thing was like, you see yourself. You want to find a little bit of a reflection. And when I watched Millennials, I actually saw myself in every version of those moms. The pregnant influencer who was just kind of like, yeah, I'm going to have a baby. And the one who's just like, I want to be creative, but I got to keep the shit together because I'm a single mom. And then the one who's supposed to have it all perfectly polished. But meanwhile, what all of these three women have in common is they're just trying to get through it, and they realize they need each other to do that. Where at first they're divided, by the end it's so great to see how they come together, and it's very clever how you do it. I won't give it away. You guys have to go see it. But knowing, was that intended? Were you like, was this intended that you were going to empower these three women, and that kind of ripple effect would have that impact on your audience?
I think that kind of going back to now when I start a project, I'm much more intentional than I was in the beginning of this. I just was like a total brain dump of, not knowing what I was doing, and then kind of cyclically going through and, just figuring it out. But yeah, I would say that honestly, there was a lot of kind of art, like life informing art informing life. Like every time I went through a development process with the show, I learned a lot about it, every reading, every production. And seeing what really spoke to people kind of would nudge me in one direction or the other, or sometimes just doing table work. We did an amazing workshop a year and a half ago with I Am a Theater Company here in LA, and it was 2 weeks of like really sitting at a table and just kind of talking through everything. And so I'm very much kind of hands-on. I learn as I go. And so I can't say that I set out
right, it's with attention.
So specifically, but I really discovered it, and I think of this new musical process as like an archaeological dig where you're just like digging and digging, and it's always been there, but you're kind of like, what was my brain trying to say?
Right.
And discovering it, and which is why every iteration of it feels like, oh, that was always there before. Like, why wasn't, of course the algorithm was a character, even though he wasn't before,
Yeah.
It's just discovering it as you go. So
I love that.
Yeah.
And when did you come on board? What made you say yes to Nico?
Well, the first thing was the music. Because you can't, if the music doesn't work, it doesn't work, right? And there were some songs that were so powerful, and then some that were so funny, that I was like, oh, there is something special here. And in the very beginning, though, I feel like we started to date, right?
Okay.
Like as creative collaborators, we got together and just started talking about the script to see, because sometimes you just know. Sometimes like collaboration is like, I don't know why this feels so difficult, but this feels so difficult. But we got together and it was immediately easy. Nico laughs at all my jokes, which I really appreciate. And I think we also bring out like very silly side of each other. Like we really laugh, but we also have a lot in common. We have a lot of interests in common, and there's that balance of fun, play, and then we go deep. And we care about a lot of the same things. So I feel like we were very united. And those early days, we just would look at each other and go, why is there so much flow here? Why is this feel so...
Why are we having so much fun?
Why does this feel so easy? And I think that has carried through. So we found that too when we
started... It comes out in the work.
Well, right.
You see it on stage.
So. It comes out...
You see it.
It comes out in the room too. Like, so in a rehearsal room with the actors, we'd be like... Why is this so fun? Why is this so easy? I remember when we first got our rehearsal schedule for the last production we did for the world premiere, I was like, Nico, this isn't enough time. I need more rehearsal time. And then we were so ahead of schedule because of just like the synergy in the room. So I think just every step along the way, it has felt like green lights. Every step along the way, it has felt like the doors open pretty easily when we're together. And I feel like that's a sign.
Yeah.
Because I know what it's like when it does not feel like that.
Yeah, I'm sure you have some stories for another podcast.
But it did carry into the rehearsal room in terms of, we just had a really warm, lovely experience with the entire team, actors, behind the scenes. It was really, it was a great experience of like just across the board. So,
well, from the audience perspective, when you're watching it, you know when you watch a good musical when you're singing the songs afterwards. So I always know that's the test. If after I leave, I'm like, doo, doo, And I'm like, oh, and I remember texting you going, I'm still freaking singing that song. Basic, like it just gets stuck in your head. So that was the first thing. But it's when an audience all kind of laughs at the same time, or we kind of like exhale at the same time, or get shocked at the same time, you really feel, and I hope the actors feel it, you know, you really feel united in what we're watching, right? You know, and not like, what did they say? Like, no, you get it. So I think that's a testament to both of you. So bravo. Your actors did a phenomenal job. And as an audience member, it was so fun to watch. It really was. And I'm a critic. I'm critical. But I loved it. So bravo to both of you for that. So what I want to really touch on a little bit of your other musical that you wrote, Winner. Because this one is really, really special. And you did a little short run. Is it in San Diego?
We did, yeah. We had a production in San Diego. There's a group called Blind Spot Collective, and they did an open call. They do every year for submissions for young adult musicals for their summer program, and I think they got over 100 submissions, and we were selected for that. And this was after a couple of years of development. We did in London another summer program for youth, and it was very early on in the development process, but we kind of got to see it on its feet. And then this opportunity, it was last year in the summer, kind of gave us an opportunity to see the new version of the script. We worked with a dramaturg, we updated, orchestrations and all of that. And then from that, we then had a high school premiere later in the year. So that was very cool to see it. And obviously have an EP of a couple of songs from the show that we released on Theater Barn Records. So it's just was an amazing opportunity to kind of go into more of an educational pathway and see how the show is landing with students, which has been, it's just a 75-minute joyful, fun time that I think that a lot of students have loved doing, which is super exciting.
You've given them, you told me about how them reading the script and being a part of the show gave them the bravery to maybe check their own identity and be like, oh, maybe I can actually talk to my parents about being gay or being bisexual and everything. So I think that's a testament to the art and why we need it, right? Why we need the accessibility. Did you anticipate that reaction?
So talking about it a little bit. So Winner is set in 1999. I have a co-writer, Joe Barros, from New York Theater Barn, and we wrote it together, and we're both bisexual. We both identify as bisexual. We both grew up in Southern California in the 90s, graduate. I was class of 2000, so we graduated around the same time. So we kind of set it in our senior year of high school, just to, and what that experience for us was like. It is also female-centric story. Our lead, Autumn, is... she's bi, she has a secret girlfriend, they end up running against each other in a school election, and there's a little sci-fi twist that the day resets 3 times, and I won't spoil how or why that's happening, but the way that the show resolves is for them to kind of come out and own who they are. And it's the songs count down like MTV Total Request Live,
TRL with Carson
TRL
Daly.
with Carson Daly playlist, and so
Yeah.
every song is a music video kind of thing, which is really fun. So we get to live, we get to rewrite our senior year of high school basically, but we knew there just was not a lot of representation for bisexual characters, and in a way that's fun and joyful and not like trauma informed for the community. And it was important to both of us to tell this story, and again, in a completely original way. But what we started learning, and I didn't anticipate necessarily, was that from the high school production that we did, they actually, because we knew with Blind Spot as a kind of specifically for LGBTQIA plus stories, but at the high school, which was not in a super liberal area of New Jersey, a lot of the students apparently came out during the process of the teacher. We went to go see it, and she told us that it empowered them to talk to their parents and empowered them to talk to the administration. They didn't get any negative pushback, which was amazing about it. So I realized that with Winner, a lot of it's about the opportunity of the experience of doing the show and putting the show on, exploring what that period of time was, and kind of, how far we've come, but then also how far we haven't come.
Right.
And yeah, it's exciting to me, and definitely, something I'm really proud of, that there can be something that really gives people that opportunity.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Now, what's coming up next for Millennials? What are we working on? What are we hoping for? Tell us.
So coming up next, we're working all week on this next version of the libretto and the script. I'm working on a new song. It's just wild after having just done this world premiere, but we're sort of packaging everything together and putting budgets together for our next steps. We've publicly stated that our intended next step is taking it to New York for a commercial production, and hopefully we can get a little bit more specific about where, when, but in the pretty near future.
Okay. What about you, Kristen? What's up? What's next for you?
Ooh, I have a show I'm opening in London called Wild About You, also with a female composer and a female book writer.
Nice.
So that opens then. And then I have another show that I'm doing with Katie Tunstall, who you might know from Suddenly I See and Black Horse and the Cherry Tree. And that's based off a poetry book I wrote called God, Sex, and Musical Theater. And that's a show about the divine feminine, and we explore 7 feminine archetypes.
Ooh.
So you can see there's some through lines in the shows that I am interested in.
That you two have in common. Okay, I'm connecting the dots.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I've just really enjoyed and been inspired by Nico's business sense, and it's been very fun to just be on this ride, not only as musical theater makers, but also as entrepreneurs and women who are taking their own future in their hands, and not only creating opportunities for ourselves, but also sharing a platform where we can create work with the world and employ people that we care about.
Exactly. And also influence a next generation coming up.
Exactly right.
I love that. And before we wrap up and you tell everyone where they can find you in all the places, favorite musical?
I have my top 5.
Okay, you can do top 5.
Can I do top 5?
You can do top 5.
Really hard. Okay. Hedwig and the Angry Inch, I love. That score, Stephen Trask, come on.
Yeah.
I love The Musical Company.
Oh,
and I love that the female version, of course.
The
I mean,
flip
that
of
was
it.
just so great.
And Patti LuPone,
Come on.
Like,
Elaine Stritch,
on.
Yes,
I mean, so good.
I love Cabaret. I saw Sam Mendes' Cabaret, and I just remember being like, what is happening? I've always loved Jesus Christ Superstar.
Okay.
And I think Spring Awakening is up there as well.
Yeah.
I just always, I loved how that story was told. So those are probably my top 5, with Passing Strange being like right there.
Okay.
So
Boilering at like 6.
Yeah. And on a different day could knock it out, like a great production of Passing Strange.
Yeah.
I
love it.
Yes.
Okay, Nico.
Okay, those are mine.
Oh, this is hard. I do feel like you could really do a personality assessment.
Yeah, absolutely.
1000%.
So top 5-ish also. I feel like Little Shop. I love Rocky Horror. Going to the 2000 revival, I sat next to Richard O'Brien and did the time warp with him, and I think that I got some sort of power transferred to me,
Probably.
which was
1000.
One of the things that happened. I love Ruthless. It's such a weird little show, but it's one of my favorites. I listened to that tape over and over again when I was a kid. Chicago, super random, but I could see Chicago every time I go to New York. Every song is in my head when I leave. I think I'm probably forgetting. Oh, I guess Waitress probably would be in there too.
Yeah. I love
You're
that.
right. You can see someone's
You
personality.
really can see somebody's in their top 5. Yeah.
What about yours, Carrie?
That's really hard. So definitely, I'm a big fan of Stephen Sondheim, and I love Company. But when I saw Merrily, I was just enthralled. I just loved Merrily so much. I really love Ragtime. And it's kind of depressing, but I loved Parade.
It's beautiful.
Loved, and I love the kind of like crying and the thing and the whole, and I just love how they told that story. Chicago has a soft spot, and I don't know, that 5th spot, Book of Mormon is by far like it's just, but then I kind of like stuff. So it's like, I go back and forth, but yeah, I could, obviously as a kid, I could watch Sound of Music at any time, at any point.
Same.
Yeah. And there is a reference to it in Schmigadoon. So again, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I mean, I'll watch anything really at least once and give it a shot. But yeah, it's just, like people spend money on different things. I want to spend it on tickets to see a show.
Musicals.
Yeah, musicals. I'm in.
It's magic.
Thank you so much, ladies. Now, before we wrap up, tell the people where we can find more about you and Millennials.
Sure. So you can find me at nicojuber.com, or you can go to @StuffNicoLikes on social, and then also millennialsarekillingmusicals.com or @millennialsarekillingmusicals.
Love that. Love that.
And you can find me on my website, which is KristenHanggi.com, or on Instagram. My handle is @HanggiLove, and I'm always doing fun shows. And I also do lots of like workshops for artists as well.
Love that. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Should we go out with a song? No, just kidding. We don't have the rights. So.
Oh, maybe I should also mention that I have a podcast. Yeah. It's called Let's Play the Create Podcast, and we have over 220 episodes.
Nice.
And it's all about the creative process.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll link all of this in the show notes and send it all out.
Great.
Thank you so much, ladies, for carrying on with me. I really appreciate it. Everyone out there watching this, comment below on a musical you love, what influenced you to get into musical theater, or if you're just curious and where you should begin. We have many, many notes for you. Everyone, please comment, like, and subscribe. Follow me here or on Instagram @Carrie Murray. And as always, keep your head above the chaos and carry on.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Carry On. Be sure to find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And as always, like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. And don't forget to keep your head above the chaos and carry on.